Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FinTech Decoded in 2025. A month has flown by very quickly, and how fast it has been. We've been doing some coverage on the trends for 2024 and 2025. With me again is my co-host, Monica Jasuja. How are you doing, Monica?
Doing very well and really looking forward to this conversation.
I am too, very excited. We have somebody whom I look up to, and somebody who's been very inspirational in the fintech and the technology world, Efi Pylarinou. I hope I got the pronunciation right, who is the founder of GrowFin. And she has been not just a key influencer, but somebody who understands these topics deep and works with both TradFi and the fintech and DeFi ecosystem. Efi, welcome to FinTech Decoded. Lovely to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's been a while that we've been trying to get together. And I must admit that I have difficulty. I keep saying 2024 when I talk about, trends or this and that,
Sure.
I haven't switched to 2025, although it started really intensely, not only because of all the news, that are making major headlines and lots of conversations, but also, as you know, I've been in Davos at the annual WEF meeting, rather during the annual WEF meeting, and this year it was very, very intense.
Yeah. The World Economic Forum has been made headlines for years now, and it's the go-to destination for everybody. In Hong Kong, we've been celebrating the Chinese New Year, right? Kung Hei Fat Choi, Kung Hei Fat Kai, to all those listening in. And so we cushioned in the 2 New Years. So we're like the Happy New Year past and Happy New Year future when we were meeting. But I would love to, and it's actually a great segue to just kick off on, right? I haven't been to Davos, right? I've been to Switzerland, but not to Davos till date. There's a lot of hype around Davos. There's a lot of, bigging up of Davos and what happens there. Sometimes it feels like almost very secretive and only the participants know, but would love to hear from you. What is the big deal about the World Economic Forum, and how does it really take place? How does one participate in Davos? Or at Davos, rather. Yeah.
Well, as you said, it's definitely another polarized theme, if you want, or event. It's been around and it is polarized for all sorts of reasons. But one thing is for sure, something that is a fact, that it continues to be a place where political leaders, but not only, major, entrepreneurs meet during the official World Economic Forum meetings. It is secretive. It is well guarded. These are not the meetings that I or others that, are there are able to attend, because those are by invitation only. And for example, this year, did Trump come? Did he not come? We don't know. I want to give you a visual of this village, because Davos is really a village up high in the Swiss Alps. And there's a lake there that freezes during the winter. And during the World Economic Forum, it becomes the place where the helicopters land for all these celebrities, political or leader celebrities come, and nobody knows if Trump actually came or not. And there, around the World Economic Forum, in the village, there's all these events that we attend and are organized by different associations, by different think tanks, by different corporations, even by countries. So countries will have their own stands, if you want. The way it works is basically all the stores in this village are emptied and they are transformed into hubs. And there's the India hub and the Saudi Arabia hub, and they have meetings. There's the AI house. There's, corporate, you'll see Salesforce, you'll see Hedera blockchain, everybody is there. And depending on where their location is, you might need a badge and a clearance to go there. Definitely, it's only invite only, and you need to register. And there's so many events going on. I think what makes it unique compared to any other major gathering, and I like to think of not the industry-specific gatherings, big events like Web3, where, tens of thousands of people go. This one is very diverse in terms of the themes. So you'll get all the technological themes, but you'll also get all the social themes, sustainability, SDGs, humanitarian, about peace. You'll see spiritual leaders. You'll see artists. Everything is there. So I hope that gives you a sense. I've been going there because of proximity and because of my network. I've been going for 7 years now, and I typically get involved in blockchain events, Web3 now they're called events, right? They've broadened a lot of finance events by association and so on, country events, several that are around women and leadership of women and equality. And yeah, those are the things that have been in my interest, and hope we have the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about this year, 2025.
Yeah, sounds like the General Council of Economic Affairs, right? In terms of what all happens and the wide representation that you've seen there. So very curious to understand. I know the blockchain, so you have the Zug crypto valley close by in some senses, but blockchain companies have used web for advocacy, etc. But in some senses also, and against that decentralized, non-intermediary, non-corporate kind of conversation, right? So how do you see, and why do you think, why do you see the blockchain and Web3 companies trying to make that mark at WEF, in your view?
Well, as you said, you have both. You have everything there. You have, the typical, for example, you'll see a hub by Circle, right? And they'll be talking about their impact and their point of view of the world, but you're also going to be seeing other types of initiatives that have to do with digital identity and decentralized ideas around that. Or you'll see initiatives that are very much focused on sustainability, again, using blockchain. So you'll see, initiatives around peace and immigration and all those, and how you can use blockchain to solve socioeconomic issues. And I say socioeconomic because they're social issues first, primarily, with, of course, economic implications, like everything. And, to me, one of the beauties of being there is it's a stark reminder that everything is interconnected. We can't be looking to solve one problem and without considering the others. And, while the WEF is very cognizant of this and looks at it from a risk perspective and an emphasis on the interconnected nature of the different global risks, there's also the positive side that everything is interconnected, so we can solve problems in a more systematic way and do good beyond in a broader sense. And we have many examples in our financial services area around climate financing and how that's connected. to sustainability and how that's connected to equality, and equality in a broad sense, not only banking, the unbanked, but in the sense of access to other um, facilities that are needed to develop economic activity. So all these are areas that, you know, one can understand better and see cutting edge thinking, whether it's startups, where the money, the funding is going, what new ideas are coming, and so on.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating. I think one of the things that strikes me about WEF is it's where a lot of the leaders, corporate, political, and others, right, who get together in an isolated village and in a sense disconnected away from their home post, as it were, and that provides for those opportunities informally over whatever, right, over a hot cup of cocoa or a whiskey or whatever their choice of drink is, or food, right? So that kind of, I feel, helps also with relationships in building and being able to talk informally on things that they typically may not be able to do in a corporate kind of a setting, I would imagine.
And they don't get together. You know, imagine having, you know, 100 CEOs from different industries sitting at a dinner, if you want, that is organized by, I don't know, Oliver Wyman or somebody like that, right? You can't get them in normal life, so many of those leaders together and discussing with them, you know, how do you create value in this complex, increasingly uncertain economic and political environment. So these types of conversations and the building of relationships, as you said, are invaluable for them. At the same time, it is also, you know, an opportunity for protesters to be there. It's a tradition too. I have witnessed, although it's very policed, but you do see those protests. This year there was one where they were using a very Swiss tradition, where they put two big Swiss cow bells, right? The bells that they have on their cows, and they're holding them on their shoulders, and you know, they're moving, and they're walking down the main street of Davos, protesting against. Typically, it's either protesting against war or protesting against climate. Those are the two big controversial topics that are used in protests. The other topics around equality and humanity that are very, very present there, they don't lead to protests. But I would say in Davos during the WEF, there are really very valuable initiatives and a lot of sharing around the inequalities that exist. And on the other hand, highlighting inspirational women leaders. I always love the opportunity. I'm part of an association called the 100 Women in Davos. We started as a group, an informal group, and getting together, and now it's grown, and we have an annual dinner there. And like this year, I had the privilege to meet the CEO of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and hear her personal story and, you know, how she's leading, or how a woman leader in the Cartier Corporation is tackling equality. So there's these types of opportunities that are there, and as I say, unique. But also the humanitarian aspect of discussions around our humanity and AI. Those were very prevalent this year from technologists from all over the world. and also how peace is profitable, a topic that we don't discuss enough in financial services, and that was a very big discussion and a couple of events around that were interesting. Again, always bringing people together from different disciplines and sharing thoughts on that.
So I wanted to jump in here, Dr. Efi, and actually take you back just a little bit before we jump into the AI piece. But you mentioned that a lot of people get together, and these are very influential leaders from corporate world as well as, of course, politics. My question to you is, because as an outsider listening in, of course, about your experience and the number of years that you've been there, we are right now faced with the crisis of deglobalization as we are speaking, and everybody wants to have put their national interests first. So in an era where we've tried to create digital commerce, open trade agreements on one side, we now talking about deglobalization. Similarly, you talked about environment, sustainability, climate risks, and everybody who's protesting about these things it might find it difficult, because the dissonance between what is really happening on the ground versus what is being discussed sometimes is very glaring. um, and I'm not saying that of the organizers. I'm just trying to understand how to make sense of this, because as we jump into these next few topics, I think this becomes something that you, as a person on the ground, like, what's your feel when you're going into these panels and conferences, because you're seeing and experiencing this firsthand.
Well, I mean, you're raising a broad topic that I like to think of as all these gaps, and mind the gaps. We have capabilities, but how much of them and how are we using them? We have, whether they're technological capabilities or policy capabilities or whatever capabilities they are, there's a gap. And it seems frustrating because just as we think that we're closing one gap, we're opening another gap. And we in FinTech are very familiar with this, right? We've closed some gaps in banking and banked, but we are increasing underserved communities, or, there's so many examples of that, even with generative AI and AI adoption. The capabilities are there. Theoretically, they're very large. I heard one statistic from David Schreier at Imperial College at a roundtable in Davos, and he said that 80%, you can have close to 80% efficiency gains by leveraging generative AI in plain vanilla workflows and so on. But in reality, only 10% has been realized. Why is that huge gap? There's many reasons, mainly because of tech debt. But in the topics that you're talking about, our world is not moving in a harmonized way. That is unfortunately the reality. And although the web topic this year, many other years, this year the headline was collaboration in the intelligent era. And you have to ask yourself, what does that really look like in practice? And the truth of the matter is that even if there's some things that are discussed and there's intention of collaboration, it's extremely difficult in adoption. It's very slow, and everything else is changing so much faster and creating even more fragmentation and polarization. And the geoeconomics, I don't want to call them the geopolitics, obviously are not.
I like that term. Yeah, geoeconomics. Yeah.
Yeah, are not favorable. So, I think that the reality is that we all understand this, and each of us has to contribute and continue their contribution like a drop in the ocean. And that's, at least in my case, that's the way I see it. I get inspired by meeting people that are thinking the same way and are not becoming pessimistic just because these gaps are increasing. Some of them are increasing in size, but there's just new gaps. There's new gaps added just because we have this not harmonized speed of transformation. And it's clear when we look at the big topics. What I heard in Davos, for example, you know, I saw a demo from Qualcomm on-device large language models working offline. So no internet connection on your phone, you have the same capability that the chat GPTs of the world have it, okay? We have that capability. It's already there. And as the presenter was saying, you know, imagine that you can have that not only on your phone, but on other devices. It can be on drones, it can be on cameras, on other machines, right? So the interaction of humans with these intelligent machines, right, that are offline, this is on device, this is going to change everything for all the industry, starting from manufacturing, but not only. Now, immediately you have to ask yourself, who's going to benefit first? As you know, which groups of the society are going to benefit first? I don't know the answer, but I do ask the question, because we are getting all these technologies that are democratizing access and have a lot of capabilities and potential to improve lives in different areas, but where are they going to get deployed? How fast? And who will have these capabilities first before we have new gaps? So these are the questions that, you know, are unanswered, but we have to ask them. They are new questions, and these gaps continue.
Dr. Efi,
Yes.
you mentioned something so critical, because you talked about, are we solving fast enough? Who are we solving for? And are we solving in a way, are we like we are solving almost in silos? And just when I work on cross-border payments, or I hear about some of the things, I actually think that we are way behind some of the progressive changes which are already happening, whether they are good or they are bad, or they're politically driven or economically driven. We seem to be behind almost. But I almost always think that there might be a reason for us to continue doing that drop in the ocean kind of work, because somewhere down the line, it will really go and help the people who it's meant to help. So I really like to hear this, because this is one thing that is glaring for most of us. And now I want to jump into that favorite topic. So I'll hand over back to Musheer to talk about AI.
I think AI is everybody's talking about AI, and it's been around for such a long time, but we still, you know, the hype cycles keep coming up. But would love to, I think, and AI is part of the whole experience you've had at Davos 2025. So what I would love to hear about your key takeaways. You could start with AI and then distill down to the rest of the others, maybe, and then yeah, would love to hear what your key takeaways were there. Yeah.
I mean, they are all, you know, around my personal experience, and I will start with what I heard from Bill Gross, which is Bill Gross has launched an initiative called prorata.ai, which is a way to enable creators to get credit for their IP, for their creations, which we know is a problem that has been created with these large language models that have basically stolen everybody's public data, right, and trained their models and given no attribution to the creators. Bill Gross called it shoplifting. I really liked that term. And his idea is, I'm going to use generative AI to fight this shoplifting. So his Prorata.ai has developed a neural network, a large language model that looks to identify the bits that are attributed to the creators, and then provide to them compensation for that. So it's a new initiative, but you see how, you have a problem, and then that creates some innovation which is for good. This is a big topic, IP, and what will happen to IP with all these large language models. Doesn't matter if it's the Western or the Eastern one. So that to me seems, again, it's encouraging to see that leaders and entrepreneurs do see the negative side effects of adopting these technologies and how to correct that. The other, what I heard and was also positive for me is from Cohere, which is focused on enterprise AI tools, not consumer. It's not me and you like OpenAI is for retail. And they are launching more products in more languages, which is very positive, not only English, Japanese, they're launching in Saudi Arabia. And this is good in terms of, not concentration, not having only bias from, the English spoken world. The other areas that were discussed a lot were about agentic AI. And there, what was interesting is I heard a couple of presentations that are looking at using blockchain infrastructure to build the platforms or the infrastructure for agentic AI, which for me is also very positive, because this combination, the partnership of blockchain and AI agents, is a perfect combination because it solves, or addresses rather, the issue of identity of the AI agent if it's running on a blockchain. It also gives the potential to have decentralized AI agents and not be locked in vendors that, you have all your agentic AI locked in a centralized vendor. So I would say that this combination, blockchain and AI, we're going to be seeing more of that, and hopefully there'll be more adoption of that. However, saying that, it also dawned on me, and this was something, I made that connection only because of all these conversations, is that if you look at blockchain developers, that's a big community. They've been around, 15 years, right, with all the different blockchains. And then you have the AI developers, especially those that are working on agentic flows and the recent advancements in AI. If you look at those communities, they're not talking to each other. They're not working together. These are developers, right? And they're not working together. Why? They live in a very fragmented world. So for something really important and at scale in order for it to happen, these developers have to work together. There's another gap, Monica. that, it's not intentional. That's the reality of it. And they need to work together to be able to build more stuff. Will it happen? I don't know. But that is something, a realization from these discussions there. And then the last thing in AI, I had the opportunity with my colleague, Martha Beckenfeld, to make a presentation of our book, our Wiley book called The Fast Future Blur, which is co-authored with our colleagues at the Fast Future Executive Program. And I have personally co-authored the chapter called Thinking Like an AI Native. And the idea there is that currently we have 4 archetypes of businesses, business models, if you want. The traditional one, the digital native business model, the blockchain native business model. And now we have the opportunity to design a completely new business model, the AI native business model. And the points that I'm making and emphasizing is that it's not just taking AI tools and, overlaying them. If you think of OpenAI, it's not an AI native business. It's run in a very traditional way. They're just selling AI services. So who is an AI native business? I don't think we have that company born yet, but we have several examples of companies that are on the right transformational path. And in my presentation on this, I give some examples to make this more clear. And we have a whole framework of what it means to be an AI native that really has to penetrate both the customer part of the business, the enterprise, and the ecosystem. And we're in that journey. It's early days. So I'll stop there in terms of of AI. There's one more thing that comes to mind that is connected with AI, but also with conversations around quantum, the risks and the opportunities. And that is that at the end of the day, every business is now forced to get their data architecture in order. Because if they don't do it now, if they haven't done it, during the mobile cloud digital native cycle, and if they don't do it now, they just won't be able to catch up with the advancements in the AI cycle. It won't be like in the digital cycle. It was longer. Some of them have managed to catch up, but here I don't think that they will have the time and the opportunity to become followers. So I'm glad that the urgency is put on them to get their data architecture, their house in order. And it's a major pressure, both because of the advancements in generative AI and because of the advancements in quantum.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point there, right? In particular, when we look at the use of COBOL is still prevalent in financial markets and in large organizations, and it's the Jenga of the IT stack, right? With applications and technology, where people are worried that you pull one and the whole thing is going to collapse. And it's just been like, let's not touch it. And this was 10 years ago. I remember going to a very large European bank and looking at their market data stack. And then they were like, we don't want to touch it because we don't know who was the last person who built this and who was the person before that. So governance wasn't great. So now they're like, if we pull something, the whole thing may collapse. But what you're actually saying is very true. And I do expect, unfortunately, that it probably will be more IT crashes, quantum driven or otherwise, may not necessarily be hacks, but just IT crashes that take place because people now have to touch that stack and get things in order. And that will result in some unintended consequences. But if they don't, it's just they are risking the collapse of the entire system or their whole institution per se, I would say. because
Look,
protection
look
is
at
not
what
there for crypto.
as
Yeah,
as we record this, look at what's going on with Barclays in the UK. I don't know if you're aware. They have been, there's an IT glitch. Nobody knows
correct.
what it is. It's not. It doesn't seem to be. They're not saying it's a cyber attack. How come this is happening in the third decade of the 21st century? It's unimaginable. While we are talking about going to Mars, right?
And one
Um,
of the tech, one of the banks that have been very positive towards tech and been doing a bunch of thing in innovation and elements for over a decade, if not more, right? So yeah, if Barclays is struggling, I shudder to think what the high street banks and the cooperative banks and the regional banks are going to be in what situation soon. Yeah.
so now that you said that, one of the interesting panels that I attended in um, one of the
Thanks.
events that's called Davos, actually, and
Yeah.
there was a panel around quantum with all sorts of different people, and moderated by a TechCrunch journalist, Mike Butcher. You might even
Sure.
know. And one of the participants announced the launch of a Quantum Readiness Index for different industries. And for our industry, for financial services, it's interesting that top 3 most ready, and there's different criteria, like in AI, right? The AI Readiness Index that Evident AI puts out for our banks. This one, JP Morgan, number 1, right? No surprise, I think they're number 1 also on the AI index. But number 2 and 3 in the Quantum Readiness Index is HSBC and Goldman Sachs, which is not the case with the AI index. And this is interesting because from the discussions there, I realized that there has been progress there, and it's not only about the risks, because 2030 is the deadline to be post-quantum ready from policy regulations. I don't know who's going to be ready. I did see announced and show they were showing the first chip that is post-quantum ready by a Swiss company that is listed on NASDAQ, WiseKey, and they are in the security and identity business using quantum and blockchain and AI. So, we are moving, and these types of, how can I say, the maturation of these technology may not be making headlines, right? But it will happen slowly, and then suddenly one morning we'll wake up and then there'll be headlines that, JP Morgan has done this, and it's not only that they're using it to protect their data, but also the opportunities that are there. Or, we, without being deep experts, we understand that these technologies can help them in portfolio optimization and areas like that. And I imagine that the combination with AI can help very much in risk management areas. And as I like to say, let's not forget that financial services are all about risk management, whether they are delivered on a phone, no branch, whether they're delivered on blockchain. It's all about risk management. Let's not forget that, because a lot of people that have not worked in our industry don't understand that, right? And
I mean, as an ex-trader, everything is risk related. You have to keep that in mind. And it's either being easy with risk or taking risk for granted, but there is that element of having considered risk and what you feel is the risk levels. I'm just going to switch a little bit from that topic, and I completely agree on that. Readiness conversation is going to be very critical. I hear you on the slowly then suddenly story. I feel we're going to have the frog boiling story more than anything else. The frogs in the boiling water does not feel it till it's about to burst and then can't jump out. That's probably going to be a situation, largely because I haven't been able to keep track of a lot of developments in AI and other things. I don't think even industry leaders are, comprehending how quickly everything is happening. And we're talking about tens of billions of dollars have been thrown at AI research and AI development over the last few years, and which is now coming to fruit because everybody's able to kind of concentrate on that from the money wise, right? So that's going to be quite interesting for us. So the segue is in terms of, with all of your intelligence, all of your knowledge, you've also been running the intelligence hub, the financial services fintech intelligence hub. Would love to know more about that and how people can participate, but what the mission of the hub is.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I launched this community and it's slowly growing. The intention is that we need a place that we can have more community conversations beyond, or in addition rather, to social media, to events, physical events, digital events, large or small events. Because with the events, there's no way to continue the conversation. And with social media, which, by the way, as you know, I'm extremely active there's no way, again, to continue a conversation. If I put a post today and there's 20 people that, voice their opinions, there's no way to continue that. So that's really the main driver, a driver also for diversification, from being trapped in only, one or two, maybe, social media platforms. But more importantly, to give the opportunity, because our industry has grown so much, I want to be a curator and an orchestrator and let others come and orchestrate sub-communities and sub-themes that are, more specialized in those areas. So that's part of it. So for now, the way I have started this is I give the opportunity to the members when I do my recordings for my YouTube channel. They can join live and ask my guest questions at the time that I'm doing the recording. I will be announcing kind of a summit in March with a specific theme and bringing different specialists and conversations around that. So
Nice.
it's really, adding to a more insightful and actionable and helping everybody. I think everybody's at a loss. There's too much going on. And none of us knows everything. So we have to do something collaboratively. That's the main idea.
I love the word collaboration.
Yeah.
It's always the best thing to do, but it's so difficult to achieve with everything that's going around. It's like almost like you can apply the same principle to anything that we're doing in the fintech world. If there's collaboration, the scale and the impact is multiple times over than doing it alone. But it's hard to be able to, convince everybody to do the same. But this sounds like
It is hard. But I always think of what Yuval Harari has said repeatedly, not only in his books, in his videos. He always says that the only thing that differentiates us human beings is our ability to create something with a collaborative effort. The animals can't do that. And he goes through these arguments that all the infrastructure or brilliant things that we have done as humanity are a result of collaborations. And if you think of it, you know, the way we organize, the way we have structured our societies are a result of that. So, you know, we can, and I'm not a big believer that everything has to scale to its maximum. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, maybe it's not for everybody. So that's the idea. And I want to also to add to, you know, afterthoughts or reflections after Davos. One of the things that I've been,
Dr. Efi, can I just, I
yes,
had a one question before that, but since we were
yeah,
in the flow, I couldn't interrupt. But you had mentioned about data, and then we are talking about collaboration. Such a great time to kind of almost rewind just a little bit and talk about how that will operate. So, if everybody is going to be forced almost to get their data architecture right, because data is becoming so important in this AI driven world, I was also wondering what your thoughts are on and what you are able to, you know, whether there were conversations about being able to share this data across boundaries, making the world a more connected place, at the same time collaboratively building together, because that entire war between countries taking over and not willing to share technology is also something that is a very important part of our conversations. And you had political as well as corporate leaders there. So any thoughts on that and how that might turn around, and what are your personal thoughts going
yeah.
forward on this?
I think, well, it's clear to me that the conversation continues in it is not, uh, it hasn't concluded. And the conversation is, where is the value with all this AI? For a while, everybody thought that it was at the infrastructure level. With the recent developments with DeepSeek, the conversation is shifting, and the thoughts are AI value will be at the application layer. It's not clear yet where the value is, where you can build a moat for a business that won't be copied or disrupted. And why do I say all this? Because of these thoughts, the next question we need to ask is the only value the proprietary data that a corporation or a nation or an institution has, and then use that proprietary data to harness value with AI? Because if that's the case, then the economic incentives will dictate to save, keep, and not share the data. But it's an open question. So I'm talking about, you know, what are the economic incentives, especially for corporations? Now, the rest are geoeconomics, you know, at a different layer. But I think that there are areas where it does make sense to share data. And I hope that sooner rather than later, we move to share the ledgers and smart data lakes, if you want, around, you know, for cyber attack reasons, for fraud reasons. And I think that Singapore, for example, has done initiatives like this. And, you know, we can all say, oh, you know, they're a small country. They're very developed in terms of their business culture and policies, and we can't do it elsewhere. I don't know if that's true. I think that it can be done at least on regional basis, and maybe why not in different larger regions and cross-border. So everything's a mindset. If there is a solid business reason, I think that we will move there, more shared ledgers to protect ourselves. Will there be different blocks? Yes, unfortunately, that seems the most possible scenario in the state of the world, and it's a complex topic. I don't see that there's something else will happen, at least over the next 5 years. We will be living in a world that is fragmented, but the tricky thing is the alliances are shifting. They're not clear, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of uncertainty. Some good things might happen out of this, and yeah, it's again a very fluid environment, and there's opportunities and risks.
I think you've made one of the best cases for use of blockchain for a real world impact, right? When you talk about the data lakes, we know there's data localization rules across the world where you need to have the data locally now, but if you want to harness it, right, internationally, or even give a large corporation like an HSBC, Citi, or IBM, or whoever there is, how do they do this while complying? The blockchain, which is permission, could be the way to say, okay, only X elements are, allowed to be shared, and can be anonymized, and that's where the AI element kicks in, and you do both on top of the chain as well. So it's been a lot of learning for me especially, and I'm sure for our audience as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Efi. We got to do an edition 2 in a few months' time, and as I said, having a collaborative joint podcast with a few of the other persons in our community would be good fun in a couple of months' time. So really thank you for taking out time and a lot of insights, especially on Davos, but the whole conversation, I think we could continue talking for a long time on this. Yeah.
100%. We continue, and it's exciting. I'm excited to see which companies from our sector will really take advantage of these new opportunities. It's not clear to me that the scaled up fintechs, be it those that are consumer facing or the B2B, are the ones that will be able, although they have their data architecture in place, it's not clear at all. We might see completely new companies being born. I don't know. It's up for grabs, really. And on that note, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. Audience, stay tuned for more fabulous discussions like we have had today. A great start to 2025 and the year of the snake, or the wooden snake, talking about resilience, talking about shedding old skin and building a new skin. And that's probably what a lot of the industries are going to be needing to do with AI and quantum coming up. So new clothes to wear and ensuring they can be flexible and mobile at the same time. So thank you. Keep following us. Keep following Efi. We'll have links to her socials also in our bios. Stay tuned and leave your comments on what you think is going to be the next game changer for financial services, AI, quantum, blockchain, or a mishmash of everything. Thank you and goodbye.